Hello YouTube friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Gales and for my first video ever, I'd like to take some time to introduce myself and list some personal goals and intentions for what I plan on doing with this channel in the future. Throughout the video, I'm going to be talking about some of my personal hobbies while showing a video of me drawing my Sarah sprite, who is based off of my Pokemon trainer Sona. However, the main focus of this video is to serve as an introduction for both myself and the channel. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more art and gaming content. Alright, let's begin. So my actual name is Sarah, but Goddess of Gales is my creator name, so you'll probably hear me referring to myself as Gales on here most of the time, though I will respond to either one. I happily live with my forever fiance and our 10-year-old son. I'm an INFP, which essentially means I'm quiet on the outside, but very passionate on the inside. And like most INFPs, I'm very creative oriented because we have so much passion and emotion on our insides. We feel the need to find various ways of expressing ourselves. So we are drawn towards things such as art, writing, or making YouTube videos, or in my case, all of the above. But let's stop there for now and we'll touch on that more a bit later. For drawing, I mostly do digital, and as you can see, I use Clip Studio Paint as my current personal preference, though I have also used Photoshop and Paint Tool SAI in the past. These days, I prefer Clip Studio Paint because it pretty much does everything I did in Photoshop and Paint Tool SAI combined, plus a little bit more. I mostly write fantasy and romance, and usually stories that contain dragons because in case you didn't already know, I'm completely obsessed with dragons. I write pretty equal amounts of original and fan fiction these days. Most of my chapter stories are incomplete because, you know, typical INFP. I have learned I'm better at sticking to short stories and one-shots because I just don't have the creative attention span for larger projects. For gaming, I mostly gravitate towards two specific genres, RPGs and farming sims. There's two things that will get me hooked on a game. Either A, good storytelling and characters, especially if there's romance, or B, something I can just relax and chill to and not have to think too much about what I'm doing, which for me means farming sims. Harvest Moon Save the Homeland was my first farming game, and I've been hooked ever since. I don't remember what my first RPG was, but I want to say Dark Cloud. That was my first PS2 game. At the very least, I'm pretty certain it's the first RPG that I actually played from beginning to end. I kind of skipped the PS1 generation as I was more of a Nintendo kid growing up, but I did backtrack a little and I managed to play at least some of the Final Fantasies and other classic PS1 RPGs that I'd initially missed out on. I've been a book nerd pretty much since the first time I learned to read. These days, I'll read just about anything, but similar to writing, I mostly gravitate towards fantasy and romance. Those are the two genres I am most familiar with and also some of the ones I am most picky about, especially romance. I tend to be very critical about romance and stories, but only because at least 50% of the time, if not more, the so-called romance is often presented in a way that's shallow and borderlining toxic. However, the rest of the time, when you can just feel that connection between the characters and there's actual depictions of devotion, support, and unconditional love, it is just wonderful. It might sound kind of terrible of me to put it this way, but when so much of the romance out there is just so unromantic and an utter disappointment, it makes me cherish the romantic stories that are well executed all the more. I started getting into visual novels a little later than everything else previously mentioned on this list. I believe sometime in my late teens or early 20s is when I started getting into them. My favorite visual novel genre, unsurprisingly, is romance, and more specifically otamis, which for those who don't know, generally feature a female protagonist with multiple male love interests. Although I also appreciate murder mysteries, so long as the content isn't too intense or graphic. I've been solo developing my own visual novels for about 7 years now. I use RenPy to make all my games, and I recommend it to anyone who is interested in making their own VN, as it is not only completely free to use, even if you plan on using it for commercial purposes, it's also easy for beginners to pick up, and it comes with a built-in tutorial that teaches you all the basics. Yet RenPy also gives you the option to customize everything, so whether you're a complete newbie when it comes to programming, a professional, or something in between, RenPy has you covered. Now, I don't plan on covering a whole lot of D&D content in this channel. I mostly put it on this list because I do tend to draw and write a lot about my D&D characters, so they'll most likely be making an appearance on this channel at some point or another. My group and I just hit our 6-year anniversary recently, and I'm happy to say we still gather together every Saturday night to play. Special shout out to my D&D group. Love you guys. Let's see. I first got into reviewing stories also roughly 6 years ago on DeviantArt. I joined a group that focused on writing constructive criticism. How it worked was every couple months we'd be randomly assigned another member's short story or a single chapter of a larger story to critique. Nowadays, I'm more open to things such as beta reading or playtesting. Although I still like to write critiques on Goodreads because I find it beneficial for me in helping me analyze what I read, I'm more interested in reviewing stories when the writer or developer requests a survey or critique as opposed to posting them online. Partly because I'm a solo developer myself, so I know how valuable that sort of information is to those smaller developers, especially considering I prefer writing critiques that I feel will benefit the creators themselves, as opposed to addressing a potential customer considering whether or not they should buy a certain book or video game. I tend to be more fluid and go with the flow in terms of creativity. It's less of a this is my plan and I'm sticking to it, and more what do I feel like doing today. I may do some let's draw videos where I just record myself drawing and do nothing else, but in a broad general sense I'm thinking more on focusing on gaming and playing visual novels for fun, but also for reviewing. I'll probably be doing a mix of both well-known popular games such as Genshin Impact or Baldur's Gate 3, which are a couple of my current favorites, but also more obscure games such as indie visual novels on itch.io. The latter of which will probably be more focused on the reviewing aspects, whereas the more well-known games I'll just be playing for fun. Now, I want to get this out there. I have a lot of opinions on everything. Whether I'm reading a book or playing a game, yes, I am looking to relax and enjoy myself, but there's also an analytical side where I ask myself questions such as, why do I enjoy this? What do I think could be better? What would I have done differently if this were my story or my game project? Because that process of analyzing helps me in a creative outlet by giving me a sense of direction and where I want to go with my own stories and projects in the future. Elements I might consider incorporating because they work for me or avoid because they don't work for me at all. Everything that I create is very personal to me. So while I do enjoy sharing my thoughts, opinions, and creations with others, especially in the hopes that they too will feel inspired, the main reason I do what I do is for my own benefit. It is a form of self-expression and all those passionate feelings, beliefs, and desire, and working towards improving my crafts. And if I happen to encourage others to do the same, well, that's just the icing on the cake, my friends. Everyone has their own personal idea of what makes a good game. Different elements that they tend to look for in a game, whether they're seeking to challenge their skills or maybe they prefer more cozy games. For me, it's mostly the storytelling, the detailing of the setting, how the plot is paced and structured, do the characters have depth, how are the characters interacting with each other, the types of relationships that change and develop over time. This is why I'm mostly attracted to games that are heavily driven by their narratives, such as RPGs, point and clicks, and visual novels. Now don't get me wrong, Other elements such as gameplay, controls, visuals, audio, voice acting, special effects, all that matters to me too, but to a lesser degree than the story. For example, imagine a minimalist indie visual novel that consists of nothing but a single background image and only one character sprite, with no more gameplay elements than just reading and clicking. If the story is executed well enough, I can very easily become just as invested in it as I would when I'm playing a AAA game. When someone asks me to review their work for the first time, I generally warn them in advance that I tend to be brutally honest, but fair. I am very transparent in terms of my opinions, but I will always have a valid reason for having those opinions. I will never tell anyone that their story or game is simply good or bad. Subjective words like that provide no beneficial information. Instead, I will tell them what impressed me the most and why I considered it a strength, as well as what I thought could use more improvement, and why I felt that particular aspect was more flawed. Whatever criticisms I may have will always be constructive, with intentions of presenting an honest perspective, but that doesn't mean my opinions are right or wrong. They are opinions and not facts. It's up to the creator to decide for themselves if they agree, yes, that could have been executed better, or no, that doesn't work with my vision at all. And that is something I like to remind creators when reading a review. Don't take it personally. Take what you can use and keep striving down the endless road of improvement, and disregard anything that you feel may lead you astray from where it is you want to go. For those who don't know, I am a character artist, always open to commission work. So if you'd like to commission me to draw your OC, D&D character, or graphic design, feel free to reach out to me. I'm most active on DeviantArt and Twitter, although I admittedly don't upload as often on there as I should. I do check in almost every day. You can also send me an email if you prefer to contact me that way. I'm considering adding an option for recordings of me working on a commission, either in real time or as a speed paint, but I haven't determined that amount of extra cost it would be. I need a better sense of how much time it takes me to record and edit the videos, but if you're interested, let me know and we'll discuss more one-on-one. Now, reviews I offer for free. So if you're a creator and there's something you'd like me to write up a critique for, be it a short story, a chapter story, work of art, visual novel, game, whatever project you're currently working on, feel free to message me about that as well, or leave a comment. I may or may not include the review in a video on this channel, but if I do intend to use it to create content, I will always ask for permission beforehand. Thank you so much for watching my very first video and making it to the end. I'm excited to see where this new journey goes, but knowing myself and how I tend to be with this sort of thing, I may decide that making videos is not for me after a few attempts, and I'll be content to leave it at that. Or I may decide that I love making videos and post hundreds and more throughout the years to come. Regardless of how things turn out, if you're interested in seeing more art, gaming, and reviews from me, be sure to like and subscribe. Take care, and I hope to see you again real soon.